Anybody else?
Oh, well, I'll mention, and I'll second that, because one of the things that the LA Business and our sister papers do is usually, if not every month, every other month, are networking events geared toward some kind of award that we are putting out. Real estate, banking, CEO of the Year. In fact, next month we're actually going to be honoring one of your own. Patrick Soon-Chong is being honored as entered into our Business Hall of Fame. And actually, the first person several years ago that we inducted was Al Mann. So it's been a few years, but we're back here in the industry. It's just not too often that we get another billionaire. In fact, I am actually in the process of working on the story, the profile that will go with our coverage of that. So any Patrick stories that you might want to pass on to me, nice little piece of Patrick color, I wouldn't mind you slipping me a little something in my ear, that would be great. But yes, I think he's absolutely right. We get a turnout sometimes for our events that exceeds our exceeds what you think our circulation is. And because we are our website is, a lot of the content is restricted to subscribers. We don't necessarily get that much into the social media yet. We may be doing that. We are in the process of doing some upgrades to our website. I'm actually also the webmaster, in addition to my coverage. And we may be getting a little bit more into that. But I'd say it's the one-on-one in-person thing that you do here, I think, is one of the things that's going to continue to be the most important for the region.
I would just say with social media and in general, one of the results of cutbacks is we cover fewer stories, but if you are fortunate enough to get coverage with a local news outlet, it's very likely to go national because we share now. So I would say a few years ago, maybe 2 out of 10 of my stories went national. Right now, it's about 7 out of 10. Stories that I do is picked up by Fox affiliates elsewhere in the country. So, and then on top of that, I post all my stories to Facebook and Twitter, and then especially to disease groups. If I'm doing an endometriosis story, I'll go to their organization, let them know about it. They tell all their members. So even though it's an LA story, it's viewed by people who care all over the country.
Real quick, before we take questions, does everybody on the panel want to give the audience your, I don't know how many people are on Twitter, but do you want to provide your Twitter handle and any other contact info? Gerri?
Sure, it's Gerri Shaftel. That's easy, one word.
Frank?
Frank Mottek, M-O-T-T-E-K.
Jim? Deborah?
Oh, well, actually, I don't do that much on my industry in mind, but I may be doing more. We will be having a Twitter for the LABJ. It just hasn't launched yet. And you're just going to have to read the paper, and and we'll let you know.
I don't have Twitter. I have an email. It's called jim@jamesflanigan.com. You can get me anytime.
All right. Why don't we open up to questions? You had, yeah.
I'm the CEO of a couple of young companies, and I have limited time and energy, and my focus is really on attracting investment. And so while I've been on late-stage products and I've worked with groups like yours, I sort of wonder for myself, why should I be worried about broad communication channels, and what should I be thinking about in connection with the opportunities they put forward?
You have a young company?
Yeah, I mean, we have compelling stories, but these are drugs 12 years from launch, and it's nice for me to provide a good story for you, but from time and energy, what am I getting out of it?
Can I take that?
And I'll follow up.
What you're getting out of that is a unique opportunity to get your company and your company's work out before the public in a manner, now maybe 12 years is a little early, but in a manner that will not require some sort of mad scramble when you're ready to launch. The more information you can get out about you, your company's name, the work you do, for free, by the way, the better off you're going to be when it comes time to launch.
And I happen to write, and have for the last 4 years or so, articles on the small business page of the New York Times, actually on the web and so forth. And these articles, of course, it is the New York Times, and you write about a local entrepreneur, and you write about ideas that for a small business. You have products that are not going to come out for 12 years. How do you finance your business? How do you do that? How do you keep alive? How do you keep your employees motivated? Well, that's a nice story. You put that in the newspaper, and you get calls from everywhere, people all over the country. They say, oh my God, Mike Riley, right? Yeah. Oh, there's Riley, he's in Los Angeles. Well, I'm in Chicago. I want to talk to him, or I want to know about him. Simple.
This is a fairly intimate crowd. Did everyone hear the question? I just want to make sure that, Dave, all the way on the far end? Okay.
And I'll mention that probably, at least in the print area, and I think for the work that he does for the New York Times and the work that I do, is on the internet. I mean, it does get picked up by other groups. We are on Factiva and LexisNexis, and if your company is mentioned in a story and someone in New York or someone else is, doing a search, or they've got something set up where they're checking on a particular industry and your name happens to pop up, there's a tremendous amount of networking opportunities that can take place where someone just sees a name and they see something and they say, that's interesting, I'm going to follow up on it. And it could actually be, a potential investor.
I'm sure that all of the panelists would love to answer that question.
Can you repeat the question, Eric, for the camera?
Sure, the question, I believe, tell me if I... Yeah, if there's a rogue reporter who gets the story wrong and seems intransient... Rogue or not. If there's an error in reporting, what do you do about it?
Oh, yeah. You basically, you start with, in our case, we're actually, very open to, if you make a good case as to why we got the story wrong as opposed to why you said something you probably shouldn't have. We're willing to do corrections, and we're willing to do clarifications. And, I would think any reputable media outlet is willing to do that. And that, and to say it, I said, it's basically you take it up the ladder, and, maybe you do, we have been threatened by attorneys in the past. That doesn't necessarily make us stand up and take notice any more than a cogent argument by you as to why this needs to be corrected. I don't know that any reputable media outlet is not going to correct a story if it's indeed wrong, as opposed to maybe it's just we reported something you didn't want reported.
Jim, you look like you're eager to answer that.
If I make an error, what a thought. Definitely, I would have to send in to the editor. Okay, I got it wrong. They would run a correction. They run those corrections every day. And they say, in the story on whatever, we got it wrong, the facts were these, and they simply print the correct thing, and they print it on page 2. And if somebody would then, even they could either contact me or they contact the editor, contact the newspaper, and then the rocket comes back to the reporter, what about this? And you say, I blew it, I got one wrong. Well, it's not a hanging offense, but it is corrected. And that correction then goes on the website. And whenever that story is called up, Googled or whatever, there is a correction, Wikipedia and everything like that.
And I just want to say, when you get that tooth in a chicken, I want to be there. So we want the exclusive.
It's okay for a doctor to use a drug however he thinks. It's a problem when the company in its marketing, either overtly or casually, markets it, tries to push it for that use before it's on the label. And, we basically, when we have stories, the whole situation with Amgen, Amgen got into trouble because a lot of the doctors saw these tests. I don't know to what extent, some of the folks, it's clinical investigators, they got into trouble because of off-label usage of their new anemia drug. And I think in most of our coverage and a lot of the other coverage, that's what we've emphasized, is that it wasn't necessarily what the company's overt marketing was, it was the way that the drug was being used off-label that caused the problems with their anemia drug.